You're listening to Bro Down Podcast all fucking day. Oh, yeah.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Bro Down Podcast. I'm Andy Smith.
I'm Tim Fulton.
And this is What Do You Got?
What do you got?
Oh, shit.
For Andy's topic on What Do You Got, we're going to be talking about sports commentators.
Journalists. We went over that.
We just talked about this.
We did. All right, so we're still reeling. I kept my shit together for the Stephen A. Smith one. It's pretty calm, cool, collected.
We're going to be taking a little bit more of a wider look at things here.
Yeah. So what I want to know is, I think it's going to be a mix, if I had to guess. But how do you feel about having somebody be a sports journalist or on a ESPN show or whatever sports network it is, talking about a sport, giving their analysis of that sport as an expert based on either credentials or based on whether they have popularity and a following?
I think, like you said, it has to be a mix of both. If you're going to have journalists speaking, and assuming that there's going to be more than one journalist talking about an event, right? You can't have people who aren't knowledgeable at all, because it's going to give away the game super, super quickly when they literally don't know any terminology.
Yeah.
Or they don't know what actually transpired.
Yeah.
Like, if you have two people who are talking about football and they can't even tell you what play was just ran, they're people going to know that they're watching a whole bunch of frauds, right? It's not going to go over well. But you have to have people who are likable too. And I think that
or hateable.
Or hateable. That's true. You have to have people who are watchable. That's how I should put it. So I do think that does play a factor into it, but you can't have someone who knows nothing about the sport, because then the game is still up. When you're being a journalist on something, you have to know the topic at hand. You can't just talk about something that you're completely unknowledgeable about. If you have a rudimentary knowledge of something, that's different, because you can still work with that. And you can still ask questions, be intelligent, talk about what you noticed that other guys may have noticed or not noticed, or that the general public. We actually, not to like toot our own horns, but we actually kind of work that line a little bit. I would consider you to be more of the expert when it comes to MMA and UFC.
On our level,
On our level. What I was talking about were like ESPN journalists, but like, you know what you're talking about. I kind of do. I'm by no stretch of the imagination saying like I'm no Steve Smith. Like, I don't got it down like he does.
Yeah.
But because of that, I do still notice things. And when I have questions, I ask them. So we're learning. And at the same time, maybe not everyone in our audience knows everything you do. So when I ask a question, maybe I'm asking a question that the general audience does.
Yeah, same. Yeah, exactly.
And to be honest, between the two of us, I'm the personality. So it's good that I'm here. It helps. It helps.
It does. This would be dry.
Oh, my God.
Really dry.
It would just be Andy in front of a black screen going, "Hi. They fought. Let's talk about it."
Let's talk about it.
So what's your take?
So I think that there's a tipping point where, obviously, if somebody's an expert but they're unwatchable and they have no fans, you don't want them talking about it, because you're trying to, at the end of the day, you need to make money.
And you're trying to sell.
You're trying to sell stuff.
Yeah.
I think there is a tipping point, though, where you can't, or it becomes almost what's the like the integrity of what you're doing gets diminished, because Stephen A. Smith, to give the example because it's fresh in there, he is an expert on doing sports journalism for certain sports, basketball, stuff like that. But it's like his credentials in that got him in the door to do the spot for the UFC.
Yeah.
But it's like, it wasn't his credentials, it was the personality. And they put him in a position to say, we're going to present you as basically an expert.
Yeah.
You're going to be standing next to Rogan. We're not going to say or present it like you don't know shit. He might say like, oh, this is your forte, but like I could still throw my hat in this ring. And I'm sure he's seen fights. I'm sure he has. But when he breaks it down like he is an expert and he gives those strong opinions, I don't know if you should do that all the time. Like, again, it makes for good TV to a certain extent, but I think that if you did it for other sports, it would get old pretty quickly. But then it was an interesting Shane sent me a video of another guy who I get agitated with, Skip Bayless. You ever see Skip and Shannon?
No.
Shannon Sharp?
No.
All right, so two guys. One's an ex-NFL football player.
Okay.
The other guy is not.
Okay.
So they go back and forth. And Mark Cuban was on there because he owns a basketball team.
Yeah.
And he has no reason to not speak his mind. He's self-made and all this stuff. So he was on there and he was saying, what drives me nuts about you is that when you give your opinion, there's no substance. You just say things that sound good. And he was like, well, what are you talking about? And he's like, you just say things like they didn't want it bad enough. And he quit. Or the other team had, they were more amped up and they wanted to win more. That isn't saying anything. A lot of times, like, you almost omit that and you don't think about it because you're taking these guys on these shows as, like, you're trusting that you're not questioning them because they know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
But I was thinking about it and I'm like, he's fucking right. Like, I don't even know anything about basketball, but they weren't even, like, I watched a lot of his videos after that because I was trying to understand from, like, the reverse aspect of, like, let me watch somebody that is considered an expert in their sport when I don't know anything about it and see if I can call out the bullshit. And I didn't notice it. But when you listen to it and somebody, like, pulls back the curtain, you're like, yeah, a lot of times these guys aren't really breaking down, like, finite things of the game. Like an expert, they're basically talking shit about certain players to get these fucking rivalries and these little beefs going so that they can get more clicks. Like, they don't ever say, like, oh, they're running a zone defense and they should have been running man. Like, sometimes they will, but a lot of times, like, oh, LeBron quit. He didn't want it bad enough and that's why they lost. It's like, what? What is that? What, you're not saying anything. The guy armchair quarterback, what they call it, right? Armchair quarterback, that's a term?
Sure.
Right?
Okay.
Come on, man. I don't know other sports. You got to back me up here. You play fantasy football.
Poorly.
Yeah. But
that's a lie. I won 2 years in a row.
It's like it's almost like they make them cover so many games in so many sports. Yeah. Like, how many games are on a week for basketball, football, soccer, all these things, hockey, and they're supposed to know all of them? It's impossible. It's fucking impossible. It's impossible to know every sport as well as the next one. So it's kind of an impossible job. It's a big ask of those guys.
Yeah, it is. That's almost why, like, kind of focusing it down makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Although, from a livelihood standpoint, that would kind of be difficult because if you imagine yourself, I guess you could do more than one sport. You don't have to do all the sports, but if you imagine yourself as, like, a football expert, that really means that your ability to be a commentator or a journalist is restricted to a football season, unless you start talking about, like, camps and all that other stuff. But people don't follow.
I forgot about the seasons thing.
Yeah, people don't follow camps and stuff like that as much as they do.
Mainstream doesn't.
Yeah, exactly, and that's really what you're trying to sell to.
Yes.
So purely from, like, a number standpoint and, like, a realistic standpoint, maybe it does make a lot of sense for these guys. But you could be a football guy and a baseball guy. Maybe that's not your forte. Maybe it's also personal preference goes in there. I don't know. There's actually a couple points to that.
Yeah, that's a good point with the seasons. I didn't think about that. But a lot of sports cross over, right? A lot of sports have crossover seasons. Like, it's not like football ends, then baseball. It's like there's a lot of crossover in between.
There's overlap.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about it now, though. Like, they need to watch so much stuff and talk about it on a daily basis. It's impossible to have an in-depth breakdown of every game and everything that happened. So I guess to fill the time and to not lose their job, they got to make it sound good. Like, they do know what they're talking about and they did watch every game. So pulling out shit out of your ass like, oh, they didn't want it bad enough. You almost have to resort to that, I guess, because you can't watch every fucking game.
No, it's impossible.
You catch the highlight reel, but you can catch a highlight reel of a fight and get one view of how the fight went and then you watch the fight, you're like, that's not what happened.
Yeah.
That highlight reel shows nothing about that
Yeah.
fight. So I get it from that perspective, but I guess we're talking perfect world scenario here.
Which is my favorite thing to do.
Yeah, you would have like, I guess guys that were more honed in, focused on that thing to lead the conversation, or at least two guys that they can have it back and forth about it, as opposed to one guy who's an expert in one sport and another guy who like casually watches it, and then they're gonna talk shit.
Yeah.
Like, not to say that the expert's always right, but there's a, you know what I'm saying? There's
a
something
difference.
lost in that.
Yeah, there is something lost in that.
Yeah.
I mean, I definitely think the Steve Smith Rogan thing highlighted the problem.
Yeah, especially I think what when you have a sport like football, baseball, hockey, a lot of people that watch those sports watch them casually.
Yeah.
They watch them casually a lot. And you can watch them more casually, in my opinion, than you can watch MMA casually, because it's only on once a week usually for the UFC, and it's on really late at night. So the amount of games that you can catch are a lot fewer than all the other sports that are combined, right?
Yeah.
So when you are watching, when you're watching MMA, or you're watching another sport, like the MMA community and the hardcore fans are like more involved, I think, because like you don't, like hardcore fans of football, you don't have to tell them and sell them on the sport because they're going to watch it no matter what. You don't have to. You're selling to the people that are, layman's terms, buying the sport. But the MMA community is a lot more. I guess because for a long time we weren't considered a sport. We have like a chip on our shoulder about anything that belittles the sport or tries to make it seem like it's not, like almost like demeaning it a little bit. And I think that's why he's catching so much flack, is because he's called one of the most respected guys in the sport and said he quit. And that is one of those things. It's like, what did you say?
Yeah.
Like, what did you just say? You know what I mean? It's almost like saying Tom Brady threw a game.
See, I agree with you. I agree with that last part, but I actually disagree. I think MMA is the more casually watched sport than other sports, simply because other sports, people find teams that they're associated with. If I'm a football fan, I'm not watching 16 games a week. It's impossible. You can't do it, especially because a lot of them are on all the time. But if I'm a Giants fan, I'm catching that once a week, every week, for 16 weeks, 19 if I'm lucky.
No,
Just let me finish. But if I'm an MMA fan, I can't have. I mean, there are guys I could definitely root for, but it's not like Cowboy's going to come back next week and I'm going to see if he does better next week.
Yeah, there's no team.
He's only going to be playing.
Yeah.
He's only going to be fighting twice a year, maybe. So to me, and this was true up until I started watching it with you. If you put MMA on, I'll watch. I'll have no idea who's fighting, but I'll enjoy it.
Yeah.
If you wanted to put it on as background noise, I would absolutely do it. But if you put on football, well, that's hard for me to say too, because I really don't follow a football team. I care about my fantasy guys.
Yeah.
But I know a lot of people, even the women I work with at work, I have a Cowboy fan that's there. She doesn't care about football. She knows nothing about. She doesn't know anything realistically about football. If you like really get into the nitty gritty, she's a Cowboy fan, and she'll tell you what happened during the Cowboy game, and she'll sit down for 3 hours and watch the Cowboys, and they make an event of it.
Yeah, that's what I maybe casual fan wasn't like the what I was like what I meant to say, I guess. Like what I mean was like if you look at percentage of people that watch MMA, not the big shows, the regular season, let's say, I think that those people probably know more about MMA than the casual person that watches most of the football season knows about football. That's what I meant. Like I know a lot of people that watch football that couldn't tell you every position.
Yeah, that's fair.
Right?
That's fair.
And now I know a lot of people that in MMA that couldn't tell you every position in jiu-jitsu, but they're more involved in the sport if they watch the general season. But if you watch the regular season of football, you don't necessarily have to know a lot about football to enjoy it.
Yeah.
I feel like MMA is a weird thing, which is why I think it's hard for people to get into it first, is because unless you understand the whole aspect of the sport, it's hard to enjoy.
Yeah.
Football
there's
is
so much going on.
Yeah, like other sports are easier to just like put on and watch. Whereas like MMA, if they're grappling, you're like, I don't know what's going on here. This isn't fun for me because I don't know what's happening. It's foreign.
Yeah.
So what I was saying, like the people that are the casual fans that are like that they watch the sport all, like the people that watch the sport all the time for an MMA have I guess more of like a connection because it's more of a tight-knit community. It's not like there's a lot of fair weather fans, but they're there for the big shows and stuff like that. But as you see, like if somebody says some bad shit about the community, like this wouldn't happen in football. I don't think. If somebody said,
I don't necessarily agree with that.
But if somebody started talking shit about Tom Brady, right?
Well, it would. Okay, I can kind of see that because if someone started talking shit about Tom Brady, you probably would have a lot of people being like, "Yeah, fuck him."
Yeah, fuck him.
But that's the team mentality getting into play here. It's
a different sport.
It's a different sport. There is no team mentality when it comes to.
That's what I mean.
When it comes to MMA,
it's a different. That's what I'm saying. It's like I don't think any other sport, if you talk shit about even like one of their most respected guys, that you would have almost the whole community hating you.
That's fair.
Like he's getting most of the MMA community to hate him right now.
Yeah.
Whereas in football, because it's team sport, if you talk shit about the nicest, like, well, who's that kid that played, who was like the Jesus freak?
Oh, God, what's his name?
Like,
he got traded to the Jets for a little while. He's currently playing AAA baseball.
Yeah, not Breeze, fucking, not Romo. He had like the little God pose he did.
Yeah, it was a trend for a while. Kids were doing it in school.
Yeah,
that guy.
That guy. Fucking, what's his name?
He had a really funny Super Bowl
Tebow?
Tim Tebow.
Tim Tebow. Ha. Got it. I know sports. See that? I'll take Stephen A. Smith's job. So Tim Tebow, he was like, I guess regarded as one of the nicest guys. Like even I know who he is.
Yeah, yeah.
So if you had like guys talking shit about Tim Tebow, I'm sure there would still be guys who didn't like him or like, fuck that guy.
Yeah. I go back and forth on this hard because there's something different about talking shit about someone and saying that they folded. Because if nothing else, Tim Tebow always tried. He was always he wasn't. This is coming from someone.
I don't know anything about this. I'm agreeing.
This is coming from a fat ass who sits on his couch all day. But like saying he showed up, right? He wasn't good enough to be a pro quarterback. It just wasn't in the game for him. So he never found a home.
Yeah.
But I would also say it's not fair to say, he didn't try hard enough. He folded, But I wouldn't have had the same stake in that fight that I do in this one. But I'm paying more close attention to this. I don't know. I'm very divided. I'm not 100% behind you on this.
It's weird.
It is weird.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know.
Let's test this out.
Yeah.
Eli Manning, he folded. Let's see if people hate me now.
People yeah. But all the Patriots fans are gonna agree with you.
Yeah, some Giants fan might agree with me.
Giants fans, because he just retired. But
he had a shoddy last couple of years.
Yeah, I don't know if anything needs to change. I think this is just it's in the news now. We're talking about it now, so it's a hot button issue. This kind of stuff doesn't happen on this level that often. I think that they're going to probably run with this. At least Stephen A. is going to run with this as long as it goes.
Oh, hell yeah.
I don't think Rogan's going to take the bait. He might
hell no. He doesn't need to.
No. Well, he's also smart enough to know, like, I don't want to waste my time getting into this with somebody that doesn't know anything. But if he gets pushed into a corner, the dude's a stand-up comedian. He'll make him eat his dick on live TV. Like,
that's what I'm waiting for.
Yeah. So,
in all honesty, I think Steve Smith is just going to be using this, whether or not it's intentional or not, but to be using this to up his status. Yeah. He's probably one of the biggest commentators out there right now, journalists. But it's going to be even more so after this whole thing is said and done.
Yep.
In my earnest opinion.
They say all publicity is good publicity.
All publicity is good publicity.
Yeah.
All right. So tell us what you think about Eli Manning retiring in the comments down below.
Fuck Fuck Eli Manning.
Fuck Eli Manning. No, he did give us 2 Super Bowl wins.
Us. Were we on the team?
I was.
Yeah.
Prove me wrong. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Hit the bell. Go to brodownpro.com because we have a whole bunch of cool gear for you, including cell phone cases,
Oh, yeah.
mugs.
You're one of them we won, they lost people, ain't you?
Well, did we win?
Aren't you? Did we win? They lost.
I helped.
I helped.
If I didn't cheer from my couch, we wouldn't have won.
That's true.
They felt the spirit.
If a team wins and there's no one there to watch it, did they really win?
We'll catch you guys next time.
You're listening to Bro Down Podcast all fucking day.